Setting up PyCharm in virtual environment, setting up VN for the project, installing packages from requirements into VN, and setting up test execution. First of all, the way that you open or create the PyCharm project after you have the checkout from Git is simply by opening, right? So unlike things like Visual Studio, you don't need with PyCharm to create any project file. For Python, you simply open the folder. That's the easiest way, right? So I'm going to open the folder. That's my folder. It's actually already open, so I'm going to cancel out of here, right? And the second thing is that you need to set up the package structure and pattern interpreter. So let me just take this one by one. A second. Right. Okay. So first of all, we just talk about virtual environment, right? So a virtual environment here is located in this folder called VN, which is the subfolder of our code folder, or rather of the source repository, right? So there's a source, and you can put the source in root. I normally recommend creating a SRC package because then you can put like doc package next to it and other things outside the SRC package. And PyCharm would have to look here, right? And the VN folder is here, and it's created by PyCharm. When you do this, let me just cancel out of that, right? So if I go and say add, it can use existing environment or new environment, and you select here virtual env and conda, right? So you only need to worry about the first two. So new environment, right? First of all, specify where to place it, and you can place it anywhere, but usually the most convenient thing is to put it together with source, because if you delete the source, you delete the virtual environment, so you don't have to delete it separately. You need to use the base interpreter, and if you just keep using Python, you will install your packages into the core root, and you will not be able to then test with different versions of them. I normally leave this unchecked. As I mentioned, I'm using 3.9 because it's usually a good idea to stay one version behind the latest version of Python, right? And if I clicked OK here, well, the reason it's complaining, the reason it's not letting me click OK is because I already created it. So you see it says environment location directory is not empty. If it was empty, I would click OK, and it will create it with empty set of packages, right? I already did that, so I'm going to cancel out of here. And here it shows me the list of packages installed. In the list of packages that were installed, this list came from this requirements.txt file. And requirements.txt file is the file where you specify package name in the version. And usually the best way is to look at the version you just installed and say more or equal than this one, right? So it doesn't go back. Sometimes, like for NumPy, for example, there is a bug in the latest version that takes time to fix and it breaks your code. In this case, you say equal, right? Instead of more than equal, you put equal. And that, if you're lucky, right, will downgrade all of the other packages such that they are compatible with this package. Because the strength of the Python package manager is that it keeps track and it requires very careful testing. Which packages work with version, which with what other package versions. And if you're going to post your code into PyPy, right? So that's here, right? So if basically if you're famous and you have an open source project, or even if you're not famous, you just post it here, right? You can search and it will come up with projects, right? For example, there are thousands of data utilities here, right? So if you want your code here to have good reputation, you need to very carefully test which versions of third-party packages it worked with. Because if it's not properly tested, then your code will break, or it will break some other code, right? So in other words, you need to test, when basically Python package manager figures out which version of one package works with which version of another package, that's what keeps the whole ecosystem healthy. And that's why when you say requirements and new version of package comes out, it just upgrades it for you. And you don't have to worry normally about, you retest, of course, but most of the time it just tests pass. It's critical that you test your package against which versions of the other packages work, and then you specify in the requirements file which versions they work with. Like it may be less or equal. So in this requirements file, it may be less or equal some version. If at some point the latest release of that package broke something for you, it may be exact version. If you don't want a previous version, but you want this exact. And the rule is that more flexible it is, the less likely it is that the package manager will throw their hands up and just say, hey, I cannot find a combination of packages that satisfies the requirement, because most packages, they want the later versions of everything. So try to be as open, like, for example, don't say equal, say less than equal, if, or less, or, there's, you can specify like the range. And that's how you make your package safe to use for others.